So in terms of things being equal, it's not. It's a bit more complicated.
It's very unequal, and I'd like to add on to that.
Yes, please.
That makes it difficult for the father, because if you're spending more time to deprioritize your career, and when things fall apart, we the fathers have the bigger burden to prove, fight for, and we are shortchanged in that way, because if you're unemployed or low income, then you get assistance by the Legal Aid Bureau. But as long as you're working, you're not unemployed or not low income, there is no subsidy, there's nothing. You get your own lawyer and you're going to end up paying 50,000 per case.
So,
majority of fathers cannot afford to keep on throwing money like that.
I've never had any support. So I've not worked for 4 years. I'm a PR. I've never had any financial support from any authority or anything. And I might, it might be that something's available to me. I don't think it would be material relative to the huge costs I have. And it's I've just been too overwhelmed with dealing with all of the legal stuff, which is more big, huge numbers. You know what I mean? In terms of battling, that's so if fathers have this available to them, I don't think it's made easy for them to access.
And
as well.
Another issue to add to that is, even though if you win the case, it is on paper. As what Guy said, it is not in reality. We've
What
got
do you
many,
mean
many
by
fathers.
paper but not reality, Mr. Janak? Can you explain that?
It means the orders can tell you you have access, you have this, you have that, but it doesn't materialize in reality. And
Right.
then you have to go back to court again because they don't comply.
Really? Oh,
There's
Yes,
plenty of it.
Aarti, I will tell you one thing.
yes.
If let's say they don't give a certain, it's not just for the visitation, it goes for a few of the other matters as well. What they're supposed to do, they don't do it. We have to go back to court. There are some fathers or mothers who don't pay maintenance. The party who is supposed to receive the maintenance gives up after some time. They say, why should I keep going up to court? I have to stop my work. I have to go to court. I have to spend my leave and I have to go to court and fight for the case. And I don't go once. I have to keep repeatedly going again and again. I think the court that you have, if you default 3 times, you'll have to go into jail. The other party will still do this. So it's still a lot of times, like my ex-husband had to pay me back some money for the court case. He didn't pay me until today, nothing.
But that's because you are too nice. You didn't go and ask him again.
For that $2,000.
But they can.
Happen. No,
But
there's no point.
Pamela,
If you go,
sorry,
if you go,
Pamela, one question, Pamela. Just if the other party, your father doesn't pay, then what can a mother do? They can go to the court
she has
again.
to go to court. She have to make the report. And
Okay.
then he has to go to court and say why he's not paying. And then there has to be a mediation done, And then these guys do it over and over again. So the thing is, I'm not saying men in general always are the ones who are not paying maintenance. Sometimes those ladies who are paying the maintenance, I think they also do that. So the thing is, whatever is there on paper also, parties don't think maintenance is for the child. They deal for a party, the money that they are giving for maintenance. I mean, there are some who get unreasonable amount of maintenance. They put the person into trouble and all that. Why go through all of this mess in the first place? Give us problems. So the thing is, there are a lot of them who are going up and down the court because what is stated in the paper is not there happening. I'm sure that happen because I don't just look at my case. I have friends who guys who also want to see their children, and their wives are taking video, finding out. I know one case. These things happen. So, but the thing is, ultimately, you didn't want your husband or your house making a child very difficult. should then be caught in the first place. I don't even want visitation at all. Why have that visitation and then give the parent problem also? Be outright and truthful about it and not give a problem even when the father is visiting the child. Traumas the child.
So I just want to, I want to, sorry, I just want to say the one being to pay maintenance is not necessarily the one that went off and had an affair. That's a wrong
I'm just saying that
assumption because no, that is just for instance, in my situation, I'm the one being regularly sued for not paying maintenance because I don't have any money to pay it. and my
Yeah, I believe that too. Like if the father is not earning enough, are they still supposed to pay?
So.
But the thing is, I think the father has to do an assessment, Aarti. They need to do an assessment. They don't do. That's the thing.
They don't. They basically have this view that must make fathers pay, even if they have no money, right? And and I understand. We remember, right? There's every situation. Of course, there are many mothers and many women who are struggling, who need the money, and the fathers are being difficult. There are many situations like that. I'm not denying that, but it's not necessarily the case that all situations are like that. And when they make it stronger and more powerful for women to take action, actually those measures are also being used to harass and abuse fathers, and they're using as control mechanisms to just cause is harassment. So in some ways, it's really someone's gone, family might have gone. Can anybody hear me? Oh, there. Okay. Really, the whole theory of maintenance going forward, it's probably too much of a battlefield. It can't be done fairly because it's going to get manipulated and abused by someone, and it's probably a better way of making it as little as low key as possible, and the way it's done at the moment, it can be a huge sum of money. My son goes to international schools, etc. So I take full financial responsibility for my son, even though I have no job, and I'll pay for everything myself. I don't need a dime from my ex, right? I would do that in a second, no problem. His costs would plummet to about a quarter of what they are, and I think he would be better cared for, right? In my view, right? So it's not necessarily the case that the costs are necessarily always worked out correctly, and that they're always in the best interest.
I'll share with you where the disproportionate part is. If a mother doesn't get maintenance for her child, she can file for a maintenance order in court for about $1. But if a father does not get access to his son, he has to spend in the tens of thousands of dollars, 30,000, 40,000. It's called committal proceedings, and that takes years, and that takes a lot of evidence to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the mother is denying fathers. Punishment is unlikely to be given. It's a big burden and it's almost impossible. But that's the difference. That is literally the difference that they need to make a huge change.
And sorry, if you don't mind, just to add to that as well, I think that the mother will be aware of the boundaries and levels that are necessary, whether or not it meets criteria. And it's very easy to tread close to that, you know what I mean? And so to basically cause a noise, cause aggravation, cause havoc without it being enough for it to become a problem. And I think that frequently happens. And obviously the better access the woman has to the law, she's aware of where that is. And even if she crosses it, she can probably go back in the months later whilst the action's taking place and say, look, I've been wonderful then. And then the father will have spent a lot of money on everything. And the courts, they don't want to decide these. They're looking for reasons to not make a finding, generally it seems. So, it's it's a game of now that can be changed. I think often
and it's manipulated heavily,
and that's the problem.
Yes, definitely. Akshita, tell me more about your divorces. The finance was father. Was he able to pay the maintenance for Rishi, your son?
Yeah.
How did the court decide it?
As we Yeah, it was a mutual divorce. In our case, we both agreed to divorce mutually, and the conditions that we agreed between us and even though it was divorce, it went through a lot of to and fro to get the common conditions agreed, including the maintenance amount. So his intention was to move back to India. The divorce. He
Sorry,
wanted to
Akshita, your voice is being
surrender
cut.
his PR, withdraw the CPF,
Yeah.
and go back to India for good.
Sorry, your voice again.
Are you able to hear me better?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Yeah. In our case, I was saying that it was a mutual divorce, so we both had to agree to the conditions, including the care and control and access and maintenance amount. All the conditions had to be agreed between us, and then presented it to the court just for a sign off because it was mutual. There was no contesting. There was perhaps no scope for contesting, because if there was a contest, then it would have been perhaps legally judging him because of all the proof that existed of the abuse. So I think there was no way there was going to be any contest. So it was definitely a mutually agreed divorce. So we did agree on all these conditions, but despite agreeing, I was saying that his intention was to surrender the PR after divorce, resign from his job, and withdraw the CPF amount and go back to India for good. So his argument was that from India he will be not able to send money to Singapore because the currency value is so different. So he cannot afford sending money from India to cater to Singapore expenses, which is why he said he's going to withdraw his CPF. He's going to pay a lump sum out of it as one-time maintenance for the child. I did not ask for a single dollar for myself, nor was he interested to pay, so that was fine. It paid one time for the child. And to be honest, considering Singapore cost of expenses, that would hardly, even if I take three. Sorry, am I still audible?
Yes, yes.
We agreed with that, and then the divorce happened. So when there's a mutual divorce, there are two steps. One is called the interim judgment, and then there's a waiting time of 3 months, and then the final judgment comes into picture. But the condition was such that as long as he was in Singapore and he was working, he had to pay monthly, and only when he he pays one time, and then that's it, no more. But he refused to pay the monthly even while he was in Singapore. A maintenance order in the court, and the court ordered him and ensured that he paid. And they said that if he doesn't cooperate, they will issue an order to his bank to transfer that much money to me as agreed per the judgment. And he had honored it, and he did pay. Yeah, but there was a lot of manipulation involved. When there is a mutual divorce, the general understanding is that the legal cost is shared between the two parties. So, which is when we asked him to share the legal or the lawyer's cost, he said he had his own lawyer, so he will pay his cost, and I have to bear my lawyer's cost. So he will not pay anything for my lawyer's fees, was the agreement, which I thought was a fair enough agreement. But then eventually we found out that he never hired a lawyer. So there was a lot of manipulation to put unnecessary cost on me, which all the court looked at and ensured that he paid for it. But then somewhere it's perhaps the Indian engrainment of entitlement to the patriarch, saying that he's the order of the house. So somewhere he took divorce as his defeat. It was nothing to do with victory or defeat. It's a loss to the child rather than to any of our victory or defeat. But somewhere it affected the ego, I believe. So all these kind of manipulations came into place. But eventually, when he went to India and he settled down and took a few months for him to settle down. But then eventually he did understand where things went wrong. He came back, he apologized, he said he shouldn't have done certain things. And in fact, he made various investments in the favor of the child, and he made me the nominee to make sure that the benefits come to me so that it can reach the child, because the child was in my care and control. um, and even in the divorce order, the condition very clearly said that the child will be his legal heir to all his assets, irrespective of the divorce, because the divorce is between the spouse. The child will still be the legal heir to the parents' assets. But unfortunately, after his demise last year, all these documents, financial assets and documents, are in the custody of his family, his siblings, so to say, who have perhaps misused those documents and encashed a lot of property and asset that perhaps belong to the legal heir, which is the son. So we are fighting a legal case in India. It's not the money, it's not the his intent. I'm fighting for his intent because he wanted the money to reach the child, and I'm fighting for that child to get that. So yeah, anything that requires, it's about perspective, it's about righteousness. I will not stop. I will continue the fight, no
Thank
matter
you so
what
much,
it takes.
Akshita. You are indeed a very, very strong lady to go through, but there are, what I understood, there are like some tough, suppressions, and some are very like, their mutual understanding from, I mean, between them. But overall, the legal case of the divorce is really not that easy how we think. Do some research and find out what could be the best solution that we can advise to others, because after my research I've done last week, a lot of them are waiting for your feedback on that.